Am I the asshole for refusing to let him be buried with my childhood treasure? On throwaway due to privacy. This is complicated, but please hear me out. I, 22M, have a stepmom and deceased stepbrother. They've been in my life for 2 years, but I don't see them much, maybe once a month. Well, I know it's cruel to say, but I respect them but don't consider them my family. My stepbrother, 12, passed 2 months ago, was sick with cancer and knew he was going to pass. He wanted to be buried with a trinket from all his loved ones. His mom's pearl necklace, my dad's dog tags, etc. He knew I have a Red Bull Beanie Baby that I keep in my car on trips and in my bed. Have had it for years, it's my treasure. When he asked to be buried with it, I said no, but that I would get him anything else he wanted. He was upset, and when he passed, his mom demanded I give it to her to bury with him. I know she's grieving, so I try to not take it personally. She saw it in car last week when I came to visit and screamed that I'm an asshole for not giving it to him and how she's going to tear it up if she sees it again. Here's where I might be the asshole. I told her flat out that she would not be touching my stuff, that I'm sorry he passed away, but until she seeks therapy and stops taking it out in me, then she can kiss my relationship with her goodbye. She is telling everyone I'm an asshole, and my dad is saying me avoiding her is ruining her health. Am I the asshole? ETA, the bull is from my deceased grandpa, the one who practically raised me when times were tough for my family. Stepbrother is already buried and she doesn't want another bull to keep. She wants mine to essentially bury in the ground if the cemetery will allow it. Still, I refuse to give her something that means the world to me, and no, I don't hate her or him, I just don't consider him family and offered him other things. Not the asshole. Asking people to part with their possessions to be lost forever with their corpse is a dick move. He's too young to realize what he was asking, so not faulting him for it, but his mom should have more sense than that. Not the asshole. You only knew him for 2 years, I don't think you were being unreasonable in asking him to choose something else. It's odd that he would ask for it when he knew how much it meant to you. I say keep your distance from mom and the keepsake out of sight. He died 2 months ago. It's a little late to bury it with him now. Not the asshole. He was dead, it is of no use to him. She is obviously having a hard time, but that's because her son died, not because of you. Not the asshole. First, good on you for recognizing that she's grieving and not taking it personally, and giving her some space is good for both of you. Also, it's normal for adult children to not bond the same way with step-siblings. It seems like an odd demand to me. That he should have been the one to pick rather than you all gifting him something. I hope this doesn't sound cruel. I am sorry if it does, I'll remove it, but you will all continue to live and value those things while he will not. Yeah, you could have placated a dying child, but you are not required to. Just the way you describe it is a treasure, shows how special it is to you. Maybe put it in a less conspicuous spot until she's had more time to grieve. Not the asshole. You offered him an alternative, he didn't choose anything. That's not on you, and I'm sorry you're dealing with your stepmom taking her grief out on you. My dad is saying me avoiding her is ruining her health. Okay, I have experience with punitive abusive avoidance and it did do a number on my health. But it's definitely not what is going on here. You clearly laid out the reasons you can't be around her and what, very reasonable things, she can do to change that. That's just setting healthy boundaries, and I applaud you for doing it. Not the asshole, and I'm hesitant to call grieving stepmom one either, but your dad is in the wrong to be pressuring you here. Not the asshole. Your stepmom is being irrational, but cut her some slack on this one. Her son just died. She's probably going through the worst time she's ever had in her life right now. Grief can make people do some pretty terrible things. You don't have to give her what she wants, but don't hold a grudge over it either. Not the asshole. I don't care if a child is dying, it's rude and inconsiderate to demand to be buried with something precious to someone else. I'm a mother and I would not force you. Not the asshole. This is for you to decide. That said, he is dead and doesn't need it. That may sound harsh, but as someone who has had to bury a lot of people close to me over the years, my approach is a bit pragmatic here. You don't take from the living to give it to the dead who don't need it. Unless, of course, it's given freely. Yes, she is grieving and many people cope by taking it out on someone else. But you don't have to put up with everything. And I very much agree that she should seek counseling. Nah, I totally get a child not wanting to feel alone in death, but I can understand why you wouldn't want to part with your childhood treasure. His mom very recently lost her child, so I'm giving her a pass, too. I think the most frustrating part is that you can get this Beanie Baby for $8 on Amazon, and no one thought to just buy a second one for your step brother. No assholes here if she realizes she needs help and gets it. My mother never got over having to bury one of my brothers, so I get where your stepmom is coming from. But your childhood memories aren't hers to take and he sure doesn't need it. I get the sentiment of wanting him to have south from each family member. But what that is should be your choice, not his. Sorry for your loss. Even if you weren't close, this affects a family for a long time. I understand going NC but would probably hide the toy for a while, just in case you end up going there after all. Not because she's right, but because she might actually try to get her hands on it. Not the asshole, but could you not have found a second-hand one on eBay or something to give to her? Not the asshole. Seriously though, while she is mourning her loss, I'd stay well away from her, and no, you literally don't have anything to do with her health. Tell your father to get a grip, and deal with his wife's issues without blaming innocent people. I would never put anything of value in a grave, as it won't stay there. Do an internet search on modern grave robbing, it is still a thing. There was a child in Britain who was buried with a fave toy, something related to the Toy Story franchise, and in 2019 there was a story on BBC about the theft of the item. Who demands people's most treasured possessions to be buried with them? WTF. Here's the thing, that beanie is going for thousands on eBay. The kid literally wanted something that could buy a car. On the other hand, there is one on auction right now that only has 2 days to go, and there are no bids. I placed a small bid on it. If I win, I will send it to you, and you can give it to the mom, and maybe she can put it in his old room or something. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Hide it from her. You're not hurting his feelings. He's dead, he doesn't care about the beanie anymore. Not the asshole. Thankfully I can't even imagine the pain she is going through, and I'm not sure I would be capable of being rational after losing a child. That doesn't make her right, it just makes her human. I know she is being irrational, but I'm not going to hold that against her. Is the Beanie Baby something you could get another one of online to give her if it is going to give her some comfort? Nah. I don't blame you for not giving him the bull, but for fuck's sake, people, he was a child, dying of cancer, and you people are calling him entitled. Not the asshole. I get she's grieving, but your personal belongings are yours to decide what to do with. And you still get to set boundaries around what type of behavior you are willing to tolerate. There may have been kinder ways to state the boundary, but it's your right to set the boundary just the same. Not the asshole, but having been there, watching a child die and having to bury them is hands down the most traumatic thing I've ever done. Adult death, while it's sad, isn't comparable in any way. Your stepmother isn't rational, won't be for a long while even if she does have therapy. Give her time and space, a lot, and don't be surprised if she never quite gets over this. Not the asshole, and I'm surprised this post isn't about you being upset about your dad's dog tags. Not the asshole demanding someone possessions, regardless of the reason, is seen as rude for a reason. Your stepbrother was likely just trying to find some comfort to make dying less scary. I get why he asked. And certainly the right thing to ask was if you had something meaningful you would like to add to his casket, but here we are. Stepmom is a grieving and your dad needs to step in and get her therapy, not condemn you. On a side note, when my grampy died the family buried him with a bottle of rum, cigarettes and, at the last minute, many laughs, a lighter so he could smoke them. It is comforting to bury someone with objects that remind you of them, but those can be small things, no need to toss in heirlooms. Not the asshole. Funerals are for the living. Personally, I'd have gone as far as letting him think he was going to be buried with the Beanie Baby, although I wouldn't really say it's an asshole move to not lie to a dying kid, either. And #X200B. As for the last paragraph, your mother's being unreasonable, but she's also grieving. Give her time before writing her off completely, but keep that boundary firm too. You told her that if she wants you in her life, she needs to stop taking her grief out on you. That's perfectly reasonable, even if she's grieving. And #X200B. ETA, stepmother? How'd I miss that? Advice stands, with the additional caveat that you don't owe her anything. You've known her for 2 years. That's not long enough to have to put up with any bullshit. Not the asshole. Who do they think he was, King Tut? Why let something of yours with so much value to you just rot in the ground? I know that's harsh, but essentially that's what would be happening. Not to mention, if he was 12 when he died and you're 22 but have only known him for 2 years. When you met him he was 10 and you were 20. Even if he was a great kid, how close and meaningful of a relationship do they expect a 10-yo and 20-yo to have had developed after just 2 years? Not the asshole. Your stepmom is beyond entitled. The kid isn't going to know that the thing that he selected isn't going to be in his grave. And in most places you don't waste resources like that. The dead had no use for it. Tell she damages it, she will be sued, etc., etc. Are you Egyptian? This is mummy shit. Not the asshole, but hide it away just to be safe. Not the asshole. Stand your ground. In my family we do not bury people with things of value. We do put family pictures in the casket though if the person has requested them. I think that is a much better idea. If I thought I could take something into the afterlife, I would rather have a picture of a loved one than their belongings. Not the asshole. I get the kid wanted it, but no one but you has the right to something as precious as that, and I'm presuming they know who it's from. It's even more disgusting that they still want it. Like, I understand she's grieving, but you said no, and rightfully so really all she should do is leave it alone. Why do people get upset when someone says no? She has no right to it and thinks she's entitled to it. Screw her. Not the asshole. Hear me out. She sucks for expecting you to give your childhood treasures to her, and considering you weren't close, it's dumb to assume that you will hand it over. It's your choice, not hers or her child's, to demand it. However, you are the asshole for telling her to go to therapy in such a way that's essentially a get the fuck over it type way. You're not saying it in hopes she heals, you're saying it because her grief is inconveniencing you and you don't want to deal with it, and that's wrong and selfish. She will see reason in some time, but this is all just grief and you should be more sympathetic to that even if you aren't close. This is a trauma for her and you're making it about you. Not the asshole. You shouldn't have to give up a keepsake of your grandfather so it can be buried with your stepbrother. While it is understandable that your stepmother is grieving, that's no excuse for being unreasonable when you offered other options. Not the asshole. No one can imagine what she's going through. I can't call the boy an R. He was 12 and afraid, but you had every right to say no. You weren't wrong to say no. You weren't no to cut her off until he sought help. She's grieving, yes, but that is no excuse for her emotional abuse and threats. Not the asshole. I don't care if I get voted down for this, but that's not just a trinket. That has emotional value. It's possible your stepbrother didn't understand the value of that item, as it relates to you. But your stepmother and father should. You avoiding her is not ruining her health. She's not coping well with her loss. She needs therapy, not a beanie baby. I would stay low or no contact with him for a while and put the bull out of sight, for now. No assholes here. You tried to facilitate the child's wishes otherwise, and it was not possible. There is no failure or blame in this. Her grief is clouding her judgment. She needs time to heal. That does not excuse her taking her grief out on you and trying to turn you into some sort of scapegoat, but it is understandable and probably not malicious. Not the asshole. Plus, you may one day regret not having your dad's dog tags. Not the asshole. At the end of the day, it's your belonging, and his mum should have talked him out of wanting these things from people. As harsh as this sounds, it'll offer you more comfort than it'll offer him now. Not the asshole. Stay away from your so-called family. Not the asshole. Your stepmom is an asshole and your dad is enabling her. Not the asshole. Burying stuff does not honestly do anything for anyone. It's one thing if he wanted something to hold on to while he was in the hospital for comfort. It's ridiculous of stepmother to be angry that you won't bury your prized possession. Not the asshole. I want to say no assholes here, but the last sentence skewed toward your stepmom being a bit of an asshole. The 12-year-old boy is also not the asshole, as he was dealing with some heavy stuff and was probably trying to approach death the best way he could. He didn't have the understanding that those items aren't his to take, so I honestly don't fault him for that. Poor kid. His mom is grieving and I completely understand it will come out in awful ways, but it's not fair of her to demand things of yours. Her talking shit about you though does make her a bit of an asshole, but again her situation is horrific. I'm very sorry all of this is happening to you all. NTA. That's your item and you're not obligated to give him anything at all. I'd have offered him a small stuffed animal or photo myself. I have a childhood Cabbage Patch doll and I wouldn't give it up even if a dying kid specifically asked for it. And the mother needs to back off with her vindictive threat. How cruel could you get? I wouldn't let her anywhere near me with that entitlement and hostility. Grieving doesn't give folks a free pass to be toxic asshole to others. Can you buy one on eBay? He can be buried with that one and you keep yours. Edit. I've looked and there are lots of Red Bull Beanie Baby for as little as £2. Not the asshole for keeping your childhood treasure but not sure why you showed up with it on display in your car knowing it would certainly upset a grieving mother. I just wonder why you didn't buy a new one. Beat it up in the dryer, get it somehow dirty and then just bury it is asked. Just to make everybody pleased at that moment. I think a lie would be acceptable in such case and don't think they would have a massive investigation to check if it was the real one. Not the arsehole. He could have picked a different memento. No arseholes here. A child made an unreasonable request and a grieving mother wants to honor it. You don't. A step-brother you have had for 2 years from the age of 20. I can see why you don't feel that close. Even if you were, you still wouldn't have to give it. She is pretty close to being the arsehole. I would keep it out of her sight because you don't want it destroyed. It's like when some idiot security guard tells you that taking pictures is illegal, you put the camera away before explaining the law to him before he tries to grab your camera and breaks it. Take the Beanie Baby out of the car and put it somewhere she can't access. Not the arsehole. This is one of the most absurd and selfish requests I've ever heard. NTA. She is responsible for her own health. She needs to be in therapy. It was given to you by your grandfather who is no longer with you. Your stepmom has balls to dare to harass you for not giving it up because your stepbrother asked for it. She honestly should have redirected his request to something else. Instead of treasures, to something that is the essence of said person, something that represents them. What your brother asked was too much and he should have changed his request when you said no, and she should have encouraged him to accept that no means no. Don't tolerate her abuse because she is grieving. If she can't respect you and your guys' relationship goes to shit, it's on her. You can't force people against their will just because you're grieving.